Yikes.
Yes.
Melanie, please let me know when it's time to begin the indoctrination.
We're ready.
Ready? Okay, meeting is called to order. Would you call it off, please?
Here, Wonderman.
Here?
Vice Chair Moyer. Here. Director Dobo.
Here.
Director Here. Matt Form.
Would you please, those of you who are here, rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, welcome to WETA's Board of Directors meeting. This monthly meeting is being conducted in person and by video conference, and it's being recorded. To reduce background noise, all video conference participants will be joining the meeting in listen-only mode, and you'll be muted during the discussion. WETA welcomes comments from the public. A public comment period will be set aside after each discussion period and will be accepted in person and by video conference. Video conference participants wishing to speak are requested to email your name and item number you'd like to comment on to boardofdirectors@watertransit.org. If you're unable to send an email, you'll be given an opportunity to speak on the item after those who have signed up. Do hope to have your participation. So I'll make a couple of comments and turn to my colleagues on the board. That's okay. We had an interesting meeting this morning that the Bay Area Council organized, and thank you, Vice President Emily Loper, for putting the meeting together. But it was with the California Secretary of Transportation, folks, Omishakan, and he brought along his a group from his office, including Dina Altuanzi, who's the District 4 Director of Caltrans. So it was a really good discussion. Lauren was there. I thought it was good. And, you know, we're talking about the vision for California transit in the future and the different funding opportunities and, the way the state is looking at transportation as for all people, people of all walks of life and income levels and geographies and so forth. And, I think it's a pretty futuristic, encompassing vision. And like any vision, not easy to necessarily easy to accomplish. And nothing in transportation planning happens overly quickly. But I think there's, he's very professional person and gave a nice talk. And I'm assuming, Emily, are the slides that he produced available? So we'll put those up on the Bay Area Council website. That okay? People are interested in seeing his presentation. I think, maybe it was because of me being there, but ferries were mentioned many times by him, which was really good. And he kind of kept coming back to the importance of ferries as an alternative. And he put up a debate as to whether it's WETA or WETA, which I said it's probably SF Bay Ferry because no one knows what it is. But, overall, it was really nice to have, at that level person from California Department of Transportation to have that kind of reinforcement and how important water transit is. And I think was really helpful. So thanks, Emily, for putting together a nice meeting this morning. It had probably 50, 60 folks there from, kind of all walks of life, public agencies, business, and so forth. So that was a good conversation. And, to the extent that there are specific opportunities that we have with the state to focus on, particular grants and so forth, I think it puts us in at least as good, if not better position to, be effective. So that was that's my report for today. I'll turn it over to our Vice Chair, Director Moyer.
Great, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks, Emily, for putting that together. I had an opportunity to be out in Oyster Point yesterday and got to have a conversation with one of our customers using the ferry from Oakland to South San Francisco. A working mom, as it turns out, and she gave us tremendously strong reviews. Her only feedback would be, as a working mom, would be great if we could have even more service, more flexibility in the service. But since I was out there, I had a chance to just visit the terminal and do some observations, and it was terrific. It's quite beautiful. If you don't have a chance to get out to Oyster Point, you won't recognize it if you haven't been there in the last couple of years. But it's really a beautiful spot and well done and well maintained. A fantastic shuttle and bus service for those of folks using the service on the South San Francisco side. So thank you to all of the staff and crew for making that a possibility. It really is well received and appreciated, and lots of hopes that it will continue to grow. That's it for me.
Sometimes get the debate over the doom loop in San Francisco, and we're do basic doom loop deniers, but you can't, there's no doom loop in South San Francisco. That place is really, really going
The amount of
well.
cranes still.
We did
working
our
out there.
board meeting last week in at Genenta, and they are bringing people back. So I think
They're all
over time we'll probably see more people, according to folks there. But it's a process. Go ahead, Director Del Bono.
I have nothing to add.
Oh, I can't believe that.
No.
Director Du.
Nothing to report.
Okay, well, thank you. And let's turn to item number 5, which is the staff report. Executive Director Murphy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Wonderman. Thanks for putting that event together with Secretary Omashakin. Thanks for raising the brand issues and WETA versus WETA versus San Francisco Bay Ferry. It sounds like you've been listening in on our meetings about the website and what direction we should take. We'll get to that item a little later on in the agenda. We've done really well under Secretary Omashakin with the discretionary grant programs out of the state. I think still the only agency to get a perfect score for the TIRCP program. So we're going to keep rolling that back for every cycle as that funding becomes available. I'm going to bring up Lauren to talk about the Bay Ferry 6 exercise. And while she's coming up, I just want to recognize the work that Lauren and also Tony from Blue and Gold, who's making his way up. Just a ton of work went into the preparation for this exercise. Forget about the day of. I was, always just really surprised to hear how much planning goes into something like this. And with the E in our name, we need to be front and center, and we certainly were for this exercise. So, Lauren, take it away, please, and let us know how that went.
Lauren Clardy, Manager of Government Regulatory Affairs. We had planned to give you guys a little overview of the exercise in a video, but it really didn't focus on our role as much. So I'm falling back to our pictures. So I just put together a couple of photos for you guys, which I'll race through in a moment here. But Bay Ferry 6, it's an exercise really focused on the maritime world. There's a little description in your board packet. But it's hosted by the Golden Gate Bridge and Transportation District. They secured the grant for this, and they brought together all the regional partners to have a couple of objectives around active threat situations. So the 4-day exercise was based around that kind of scenario. It was 4 days. Day 1 focused on prevention, radiological nuclear detection. We did not participate in that day. Day 2 was an active shooter at a ferry terminal. Day 3 was an active shooter while underway. And day 4 was an incident where a ferry would be the responding agency and a rescue platform for some kind of either a ferry or a large ship out in the bay that has an issue and they have to get passengers off, or a plane in the bay where the passengers need to come on board a ferry to get rescued. I think, you know what, I'm just going to run through them here, and then I'm going to have Tony, and this is Tony Heater from Blue and Gold Fleet. He has made this entire exercise possible. He's support captain with Blue and Gold Fleet. And really, honestly, I feel like I just said that you're like a magician every single day because you're able to pull off everything.
As long as I can keep that going.
So I'll pass it to him in a moment, but I'm just going to zoom through a couple of these photos. There's a lot more. Hold on. Is it you or me? You.
I can see them.
You can see them?
Yeah.
Hang on.
They look great.
Okay, perfect. So, first off, this was the largest participation that has ever happened with Bay Fair 6 exercise. There was 619 personnel that participated in the 4-day event. There was 39 law enforcement and Coast Guard vessels and 51 participating agencies. So this is an exercise, and it's not necessarily, one of the things I want to emphasize is it's not necessarily just for our benefit. Really, we're providing a platform for a lot of law enforcement agencies to practice their response. So it's a dual thing, but the law enforcement side definitely got a lot out of this. And you'll see in some of these photos, there's a lot of moulage and like volunteers and, you know, dummies that have some bloody stuff on them, but they need that kind of, they need that type of theatrical component to it to be able to have their response be appropriate when something like this happens. So the first day was, sorry, I'm only going over day 3 and day 4, which was the 2 days that we had a vessel there. The first day was underway boarding, so that means exactly that. Law enforcement agencies were learning how to get onto our boats while we were underway. We had, for that day, there was 12 different law enforcement vessels that came up and did approaches to our vessel. Every team got a chance to get on the boat while it was underway. So these are just a couple of shots of that happening. San Francisco police, they've done this a lot with us, and you can definitely tell that they're well trained for this. Other agencies were there as well. Sheriffs, Coast Guard, lots of different SWAT teams as well. And then there's a whole component about what happened when you get on the boat to be able to clear a boat from an active threat situation. I'm showing less of those photos just because it is the underway boarding and other aspects where it's more about our participation. And then day 4 was a mass rescue. It's called the Vessel Mutual Aid Program. It's something through Coast Guard, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that because you're so much more well-versed in it.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. Well, hello again. My name is Tony Heater. I'm with Blue and Gold Fleet. And can you hear me okay? Just a quick history from myself. I spent 23 years in the wheelhouse as a vessel captain, and just recently, this last February, decided to become a manager with Blue and Gold operations. And so basically my job is to manage the crews, the vessel crews that are operating your equipment. And what this plan is, BMAP is our plan. It allows us to practice or actually put on display our ability to rescue, to be a rescue vessel. So for example, every crew member and captain that operates on any of the San Francisco Bay ferries goes through at least 40 hours of qualification to get trained on how to use all the safety equipment. And then we drill once a month on man overboard, abandoned ship, fire, and whatnot, and we stay in practice. And one of the things we don't do, though, is practice being a rescue vessel. So in this scenario, BMAP, we had a casualty out on the bay, which happened to be, in this case, a bomb had gone off on a Golden Gate ferry, and we came over to rescue. So what happens is everyone abandons one vessel and gets into the life rafts. They get taken to the rescue vessel, which was the San Francisco Bay Ferry, by these smaller boats. We put them into our abandoned ship raft, really, and now we have to get them back up on the boat. And that is more challenging than you would think. And so we were able to practice it. And actually, I should say VMAP, this was a demonstration day. It was a chance for us to prove to the Coast Guard that we could do this. And that allows us to, as a harbor, we all are there to support each other if somebody were to have a casualty. And that was our chance to practice it. What I think we took the most from is all the lead up training. There was an enormous amount of lead up training that went into having these 4 days of exercises. And that allowed not all of our crews, but a large majority of our crews to put hands on equipment, to get some trauma training, what to do if we had a mass trauma situation on the boats, as far as using tourniquets and double tourniquets and hacking wounds, triaging, and determining which passengers needed immediate rescue. So that was the idea behind VMAP. Day 4 of the exercise. And then those still shots of the SWAT teams boarding, again, this was underway. These vessels were underway. The shots of them boarding, it's hard to tell, but they're definitely underway. So we were able to, with San Francisco Police and San Francisco SWAT, we went out to the South Bay one night on the lead up training to let these guys practice. And we did it at night with night vision on. It was honestly, it was a lot of fun. I mean, one of the joys of this job is getting to use the equipment that you all put together. It's a lot of fun. So the trick now is to make sure that we are able to take what we've learned, what we've demonstrated, and continue to train and practice using this equipment. So a couple weeks after the exercises, we put together at our Central Bay facility a VMAP course, and we practice as a group. We let every crew, as they came in from their morning service and before they went out on their PM service, we let them tackle this course, go down the slide, up the slide. One of the things we don't get to do when we do drills is actually take one of these life rafts and toss it in the water, right? Because they're single-use items. You inflate one once and that's it. That did its job. So we were able to put a course together, let them move the equipment alongside, and we were able to in one day get every crew, all 16 crews from Central Bay through the course. And our takeaway from it was let's try to do a little less, but more frequently. So I think now we're going to just pick one topic, have the crews set it up for the crews to do a couple evolutions without having to disrupt our service at all. An exercise like this took 10 hours, so we clearly couldn't get every crew member through it, or we wouldn't have been able to run service. So that's basically what we did.
And that's pretty much the overview. I just wanted to highlight, and it's written in your board packet, the number of trainings that we hosted. We hosted, I mean, if you count them up, I think it's about 15 to 20 different trainings for law enforcement agencies. And we're continuing to do that training. Some of them weren't able to come. Some of them, the wind picked up on the last day. So some of them weren't able to make some of those landings. So we're working with those agencies to make sure that they get the same benefits out of this exercise as everybody else. Yeah, and with that, just a huge thank you to Blue Gold Fleet and to Tony for all their participation.
I know why you call it exercise now.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, the crew that was in the IBA and the raft really had to work hard.
Yeah.
To the point where we had to switch them out. It's difficult to stay up on your feet on the ground. I was not that person.
Yes.
Maybe Chair Wonderman, any questions from the board while Lauren and Tony are up here?
So how often do you anticipate, doing an exercise, exercises at this scale?
Like with this regional nature.
Yeah.
So usually Big Ferry happens every 2 to 3 years. It's a big planning effort. And it's not something that we can undertake as a region every year. And so I think we're looking to partner with Golden Gate, not next year, but the year after, to do a big exercise with, we'll have to figure out what the objectives are for that time. But Blue Gold Fleet's got a training program to do continuing training with crews on our regular stuff, but then also on being this rescue platform, which is above and beyond what our crews really.
We were able to collect or acquire some of the equipment left over from this and put together a course where we can set it up. It's on pallets, we can move it. The first one we did, we definitely invited all of the other, we invited Golden Gate, Red and White, Angel Island Ferry to be able to come over and use this equipment. So because ultimately we're all part of the VMAP program. This first time we didn't get anyone. I think pretty much everyone's exhausted their payroll from these all the exercises we've been doing, but we're going to continue to keep it going and make sure that everybody gets to put their hands on it. And we can take the course to Larkspur, we can take it to Mare Island, where we can move it around and keep everybody using this equipment.
It's a great exercise, especially losing urban shields. I mean, this is huge for
a lot of
first responders. And one of the things I want to comment just from the agency I'm from is in Alameda. It's huge. Like, I know our guys and girls constantly are asking, hey, can we get our equipment on the ferries? Can we put our hands on it? Is there any way to do it? And that, it's hard to coordinate. You have an agency, just food for thought, that's sitting out there at the central maintenance facility. If Lauren knows the chief, if she called ahead of time and said, hey, have a crew come down, I guarantee they would have crews come down. Or if you're in Vallejo, because I think we have a fireboat, Vallejo has a fireboat, South City has a fireboat, but maybe if you're around and you have time and, include some of those fire agencies, because our people love to train, and this is like something that we don't do often or get our hands on also. So
we do have a plan to meet with City of Alameda Fire and PD and put together this exercise. They couldn't participate in the lead up training just because of staffing.
Yeah.
Timing. So we're gonna offer that to them at Central Bay in first quarter of twenty
That's
twenty-four.
awesome. Yeah.
But we did, for this event, invite, some SFPD, Alameda PD. And, but it was kind of last minute. I
Yeah.
really kind of said, hey, we got to do this. We got to pick a date.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yes, definitely, we would like to have them get, because they definitely need a chance practicing landing on the rafts. That was probably one of the most trickiest
Yeah.
things.
And the law enforcement landing to the rafts is definitely, we want to make sure that they do it in a safe way. We want to make sure they have enough training to be able to do it
Yeah.
safely during an event. And then one other thing I want to mention is, you know, we work with local law enforcement all the time. Blue and Gold does a great job with getting them out there to our maintenance facilities to walk on our boats, get familiar with them. This exercise just provided a much bigger regional platform for doing that with much more agencies from farther away than we usually work with. But on a regular basis, we've got FFPD out there all the time. We have, you know, several different agencies that we work with.
You know, we did host a 3-day seminar for law enforcement to use the rad nuke detectors. So they came to Central Bay and they did at our seaplane terminal and practiced putting this equipment on the small PD boats, marine units, and they practiced detecting radiological devices from a distance. And they did that in practice for day one of the exercises. And it was really successful. They were able to determine what the isotopes were, what the yield was, how big of a risk it was from the boats without having to board the ferry. So, and that was all at Alameda.
Great. Thank you.
So I just want to commend you both and everybody really for taking this on. As you know, it's near and dear to my heart. The boarding really resonates for me. You mentioned the wind, but also what people don't think about is those ladders are really wet. And it's very hard to maintain your balance going up it. So it's great to see that that was part of the exercise. And just the interagency cooperation, the SFPD and fire respond Bay-wide all the time. So it's great to see that the ferry system is going to be more and more part of that, because it's written into all of the plans, but you're not often invited to be part of the exercises, which is always huge to me. So thank you for really doing that. And as we grow our own strategic plan, it's going to become more and more part of our capabilities, and as well as our to all on our services. So really excited to see this. Thank you. It's a tremendous undertaking. I can't even imagine. Love the pictures. So really kudos to all of you. Thank you.
And really appreciate all that you guys did, and definitely, I don't know how much Belia was able to participate.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Glad to hear that, because I know with the understaffing we're suffering there, it's a bit of a challenge on things, but super excited to see all of this happening.
And we're doing a follow-up training with Blanco SWAT as well.
Oh, good. So great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was awesome.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Tony. Next up is the regional transportation measure. This is an item that we've touched on at our board meetings, but there's a lot of activity. Things are starting to pick up. There will be a proposed legislation next session to authorize MTC to put a measure on the ballot as early as 2026. So they've been doing a lot of outreach to learn from the public and from stakeholders what this measure might end up looking like. And this presentation was put together by MTC. They're sharing it with their commission, I believe tomorrow, and they've been talking with other folks around the region over the last few weeks about where things stand. So the measure would be based on Plan Bay Area 2050 to advance those goals. Those are largely infrastructure project goals. It would also focus on the very real need to support transit operations around the Bay Area in light of the fiscal cliff issues that are ongoing and the lower than pre-pandemic ridership that seems to exist in perpetuity right now. We don't know when ridership will come back to pre-pandemic levels. Next slide, please, Tom. And they've been talking to agencies around the Bay Area, business organizations, labor, transit advocates, obviously transit operators. There's been one poll that's been conducted by MTC They've had a series of pop-up workshops oriented around Plan Bay Area 2050 plus that also have touched on what this measure should look like and ask the public what their priorities would be for a regional transportation funding measure. An online opt-in survey was also conducted, and they've received a lot of feedback. Next slide. We can see what that feedback has resulted in. Transit transformation really incorporates two things. One is evolving the transit network to meet the needs of a post-pandemic reality, new travel patterns, better connections, things that can be done to improve the transit system so that it operates more like one network with an integrated fare structure and minimum standards for how transfers will work between agencies, along with supporting transit operations at a higher level, subsidizing those operations at a higher level than we historically have, so that we don't have to have transit cuts and we can operate service around the region that will be productive and increase ridership and capture a larger percentage of the traveling public on transit. Safe streets is just what it means. That is something that's been has revealed itself to be a priority with the public through this process, making streets safer, making sure that the local street and roads projects incorporate equity and climate goals, which are very important to the public. Connectivity is also critical, and I think that has to do with transit operators working together to make sure that connections are better, making sure that travel time can be reduced, that frequency can be enhanced on our transit systems. That is the mother's milk of increasing ridership, is travel time and frequency. And then climate resilience is still something that resonates with the public, especially with the very real impacts that we're seeing now in California and beyond. They did look at there's a number of unanswered questions that still have to be worked out. Number one is, what's the geographic area of this tax? And so the legislation that will be proposed by MTC will cover at least 5 counties. And as many as all 9. So it's possible that this measure, based on political realities and viability, could be less than the 9-county Bay Area, but no fewer than 5 counties. The timing of the ballot measure is still up for discussion, and so the legislation would authorize the measure to be on the ballot in November 2026 or a later date. With no sunset, MTC would retain the ability to move forward with the measure at any time in the future after November 2026. Revenue options, there's a list that is in a later slide that will go into more detail about that, but safe to say that a variety of revenue options is what MTC is seeking the legislature to authorize for this measure. Expenditure priorities, similar story there. They're looking for a flexible set of categories of expenditure that would be authorized by this legislation. That's different than how MTC has approached regional funding measures in the past. Our experience with RN3 obviously is the most recent example. There's a defined project list that they ask the legislature to approve, and lots of haggling that goes into the creation of that expenditure plan. This would be a more general set of categories with more flexibility for the commission to allocate funds as they see fit into the future. And the distribution is also something that would be flexible. So not a return to source necessarily distribution, but something that would allow the commission to address the regional needs without being so prescriptive. Next slide. Here's the funding categories that that MTC has looked at, and there's been some feedback that they're already incorporating on these. Sales tax is, I think, one that is always discussed. Income tax is something that's new. Payroll tax, likewise, something that is new, has not been done in the Bay Area for a regional transportation measure before. Neither has a corporate head tax. Parcel tax, you can see that big dollar amount for the parcel tax. That's something that has really raised some eyebrows as MTC has done this outreach. And then a road usage charge is something that has been discussed at the state level, but no region has implemented anything like that to date. Based on feedback that they've received so far, the recommendation is to not have a parcel tax. The dollar amount is just too high to resonate with voters. Corporate head tax likewise is something they're recommending be taken off the table. The idea there is we shouldn't be discouraging businesses from hiring people, and a corporate head tax would potentially do that. And then registration charge on vehicles is something that that they are looking at as not being a viable alternative. That has raised some major political challenges in the past and would continue to do that now if proposed. Expenditure priorities, the thing to take away here is just that big red box at the bottom of that column that shows how much of a regional funding measure would need to subsidize transit operations to avoid a fiscal cliff and also help transform transit to be more accountable and more relevant to the travel patterns that have emerged in the region so far. It's a big need. It's a need that has been met in other regions around the country that haven't had the benefit of high fare box recovery like the Bay Area has. We've really been the anomaly around the country where we've had such high fare box recovery. We haven't had to rely on big subsidies for transit. And now post-pandemic, we're really more like some of these other areas. We're more like New York, we're more like Chicago, we're more like Atlanta. And that if we want to maintain our transit service, we're going to have to fund our operations like those regions do as well. Next slide, please. Policy reforms, we know this is something that the legislature is going to ask about if they're going to approve a measure. And so the regional network management discussion, which is about to have a more formal venue with the Regional Network Management Council, which should have our first meeting on November 27th. That's the venue to move forward with some of these policy changes that the legislature and other stakeholders have really pushed for. And the question is, what of those policy topics should be included in the legislation? Next slide. So stakeholder outreach is going to be ongoing. Again, MTC leading that process, but transit operators helping along the way. There is another public opinion poll that is in the works. And so we'll see what the results of that are at the end of the year. I think everybody's expecting to, not see super optimistic news immediately, but hopefully some indication that public opinion could change over the next 2 years before a measure's on the ballot. And then legislative outreach clearly to help shape the legislation and put it into get it into a place where it can be passed by the legislature this session. I'm going to pause there before we move on to any other ED report items and hopefully answer any questions or respond to comments from the board.
So just so I'm clear, because you mentioned BAFA and the gas tax authorization. So are we talking about two separate measures or combining measures or, timing? I was under the impression that the housing advocates were looking at going on the ballot in 2024 with something and that this is 2026, but I might be confused.
No, you're correct. That's the plan. And MTC, the commission, has supported that plan. So the housing measure is anticipated to be on the 2024 ballot. I think will be on the 2024 ballot, and this measure would be on in 2026 at the earliest.
I've seen polling that's pretty discouraging on this. There was a bunch of it that was published in the Bay Area News Group a few weeks ago, which showed kind of record low support for public transportation by voters. And then, I'm aware unofficially of some other polling which didn't have different outcome. So, what's the discussion or the thinking amongst the transportation folks, about how you move the needle to get voters excited about it? I know, the conversation about the regional network manager gets some transportation advocates excited, but I have a feeling that the general public would go to sleep early if we talked about that. You know, it's not something that really is gonna, I don't think, I mean, it could be really important to do it, but, you know, it seems like, we talked about, maybe we talked around this with Tokes this morning, but, you know, we're in a different world and mindset than we were going into the pandemic. So, I mean, you know, the Bay Area Council was behind Regional Measure 3. And we were behind the fastener measure, which was aimed to raise 100 billion, which we had to, which we ran up against a lot of issues, I think, and then the pandemic really stopped it. But I don't know that it was going to go forward in 2020 based on a lot of differences of views about funding and priorities and things like that. And that was, none of that money was going to fill operations. You know, that was before there was such a thing as, you know, a fiscal cliff or operating, you know, shortfall. So, you know, it seems to me there really needs to be, I get that they're asking around and getting input, and that's good. They're going to do, I guess, more polling, and that's good. But seems to me, you know, there's going to really need to be a, you know, something's got to happen to get the public really engaged in this, you know, to the point where they're willing to open up their wallet in whatever form that takes. I don't solely represent businesses, so, you know, we represent major employers, but a lot of our members are, you know, private business, and you know, I don't think any of them would be very thrilled by a lot of those funding solutions. So, you know, to me, you know, what we were looking at last time was the sales tax. You know, it's what LA was able to pass. LA's a kind of the same size as the Bay Area. It's a little bigger, LA County, and they passed 2 sales tax measures, which raised a lot of money for capital. And they're using that capital to really reinvent LA's transportation system. And, you know, sales tax is the kind of source that everybody pays it, you know, everybody's in, you know, businesses in, consumers are in, so forth. People call it regressive, but, you know, it raises a lot of money without having to raise the rate by a lot. So people, I think, don't feel that impact. So you know, when I look at that list, I think about my members at the Bay Area Council, you know, and the conversations that we would have about some of that stuff. And at least if it were today, it wouldn't be really great conversations about some of it. I have to say. So I hope, you know, a lot of really good thought would go into this. I saw, you know, that at the BART board meeting last week, I didn't get the details, but there was some coverage, news coverage, that some BART directors talked about consolidation as a solution. And maybe you could comment on that, Seamus, because, you know, that maybe that's the kind of thing that would get people. I don't know if consolidation, you know, maybe that, you know, maybe that's more exciting or more tangible. I don't know if it helps that much. You know, I'm not sure what the outcome of something like that would be, but
yeah, I mean, I think your comments are right on about public opinion needing to change for something like this to be viable, and we're a few years out. It's unclear whether public opinion is going to change organically so that more people think the Bay Area is on the right track instead of the wrong direction, and therefore they're interested in opening their pocketbooks to fund something that is a priority. Transportation and transit used to be in the top 3, and we're not in the top 5, maybe not in the top 7 anymore, but that will change, is the idea. Public opinion won't stay this sour, and we have to believe that it'll be right to pass a transportation measure at some point in the future. The question is, will it be by 2026? And then your second comment was around what we can do to make it change by 2026 if possible. And I think those seamless Bay Area principles that we're now starting to implement in the Bay Area through the Regional Network Management Council, through the Transformation Action Plan, I do think that's something that will resonate with the public if it's framed in the right way. I think the public cares about outcomes. I don't think they care about the process to get there. I don't think they really care about consolidation either, as long as they have the outcomes that are going to create a difference in their regular day-to-day life. And so that's how hopefully we'll be able to message these reforms. We'll be able to message the outcomes of the process that we're undertaking. We'll be able to message the outcomes that we'll be able to move forward with if some of with funding from a regional transportation measure that ultimately the voters would support. I think this is a coin flip right now, whether we get legislation passed. I think it's another coin flip whether we're on the ballot in 2026 and the climate is right to put a measure on board. And then as soon as we are on the ballot, it's another coin flip if we're going to be dependent on a 2/3 threshold to pass this measure. There's some potential relief on the 2/3 issue if ACA 1 passes in November of 2024. That would reduce the threshold to 55% for a capital only measure. There's some maneuvering that could be done to free up operating resources with the capital only measure, and MTC is looking at that. But boy, that's a bunch of other coin flips that would need to happen for that to play
That's
out.
harder than getting up that ladder. On yeah, so just as a thought, something we could do, which I think we should think about, is when the pandemic happened, the federal government, which wasn't used to getting in the fray like that, did in a big way, and they put in, they made a really big commitment to keep transit going, amongst other commitments that they made, and that really helped, in so many ways, and it certainly helped us keep the boats going and the crews fully staffed and all of that stuff. It was really great. And then, that money was for a certain amount of time. So when we started to see the money dwindling in the future, we went to the state for, to keep it going. And it wasn't like we were welcomed with open arms in that, but, because the state was starting to see deficits and so forth. But we were largely successful, and Tokes talked about that this morning, in achieving $5.1 billion to augment and keep, basically keep money flowing. It wasn't every nickel that was sought, but it was really a good, it was a good, big help. And, I wonder, I don't know who's going to be in charge of Washington, D.C. after 2024 election, but that's sort of around the corner. But I don't know if there's a conversation going with members of Congress about this, because they were able under pressure to find a different value to funding transportation than they had before. So now they voted for something, they're all on record having voted for it. And I think they got a lot of accolades for that. And now the situation's a little different, but why couldn't we be beginning a conversation with the administration and Congress, kind of looking ahead and saying, well, we're not the only I know we have high fare box recovery in the Bay Area and some agencies, so we're especially impacted, but we're not the only ones. So, maybe it would be appropriate to start thinking about, not going to Congress at the last second, and saying, look at our situation. We're in a desperate situation, but having them maybe begin to put this in their plans, for what their campaigns are about in the future, and not react to it the way the state reacted to it, because it really wasn't part of their plan, and it didn't feel like as much of an emergency, fiscal cliff, what fiscal cliff? So, but eventually, we kind of turned that around, but, we might have done better had we talked to the state a year earlier, and started to prepare for that. So anyway, I just thought, I know we've got folks representing us in Washington, and, we do trips, and, we prioritize things, maybe, we've got there's a lot of allies in this, and I don't know that we're working it as much as we could, because that's really where I think, the potential is for the future. And then, that also then makes it easier, I think, on the public to swallow a regional measure when their money's getting matched federally and so forth. That's a good case, that we make a lot to voters that, we're drawing down federal funds. So if you don't vote for this, we're gonna lose federal funds that go to some other place.
Yeah, that conversation is happening. APTA is very oriented towards that as a priority for their legislative program. They're having a lot of conversations with members about that. We are the region with the biggest need, but we're not the only region with a need, and with a fiscal cliff approaching. So it's going to be, it's a heavy lift like it is anywhere, and we have to make sure that we're looking under every stone. At the federal level in particular, we need to do a 180 there and stop moving from crisis to crisis, government shutdown to government shutdown before there can be a productive conversation about increased funding for transit operations. But they used to have transit operations funding at the federal level, and there's no reason why they can't go back to that. We just need to do a better job communicating it, like you're saying, and we'll work with California Transit Association and APTA and our stakeholders here in the region to try and elevate that discussion. It's a good suggestion.
Thank you. Other members of the board, any questions on the funding measure?
None from me.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. Then moving on to Main Street Terminal update. The project's underway. Progress is being made. Tom's going to give us an update on how the contingency plans are working out with our riders.
Thank you, Chair Wonderman, Chair Lawyer, Directors. Just a quick update on the impacts we're seeing. Obviously, it's only been 10 days since the closure went into effect, so it's a very small sample size. We haven't noticed anything crazy in terms of ridership impacts, nothing unexpected. That's it, and we're also not getting a ton of complaints. People were well informed, much to my chagrin, when we were seeing the news about a ferry terminal closing, and it was a little vague on which terminal was closing in the headlines, but everyone was well aware. We wanted to update you on the rideshare voucher program that you approved at the last board meeting. So far, 33 vouchers have been distributed, which lines up about to what our daily Main Street Alameda ridership to South San Francisco was pretty closely. 14 of those passengers have actually used the vouchers. Some are using it double digits so far, pretty much every day. Some have just used it once. And we've offered 61 total rides through that program at this point. I want to commend Raphael Regan, who's taken on the day-to-day management of that voucher program for doing that. And of course, Mike Gowerty for setting it up. With that, happy to answer any questions. We expect to have some more data next month.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Then with that, I think I'm turning it over to Gabe, who is remote, to cover the ridership report.
Hi, board members. Good afternoon. So because of the way that the board schedule is working out, we haven't yet closed out the October ridership and OTP data. So there's no real significant updates from the last board meeting. We're still on track preliminarily through October to be keeping pace with our budget projections year to date. So that's good news. We're seeing kind of the similar seasonal dip in ridership, which we would expect at this time of year. So more to come in the future, but it looks like we're still on track for what we projected in the budget.
Great. Thanks, Gabe. There's more detail in your packet on that report and the state and federal legislative reports in the financial
Ask a
report.
quick question.
Yes.
Gabe, thanks for the report. So as I look in the chart through September, Caltrain flat, BART's sort of nudging up nicely, but WETA, for the month from, I guess it looks like it's from July to September. It looks again like the picture of that slide. And I'm wondering, that BART and Caltrain don't have the same kind of seasonal variation as ferries because they're not ferries? Is that what it is?
I think so. That data has not been updated. Joe Ramey, operations analyst, WETA. Good afternoon, directors. I'm just going to give you a quick update on on-time performance, but that chart I think you're referring to has not been updated with.
Yeah.
You're referring to the ridership.
Yeah, the
ridership.
ridership.
Yeah. That was.
Because I've been quoting 85% as our 85 pre-pandemic as our number. And this is around 70.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
so-
Go ahead, Gabe. Go ahead, Gabe. Sorry.
hate that.
Yeah, so that's definitely the seasonality. I mean, we don't know for sure because you can't posit causation from ridership data, but we assume that yes, the seasonality is kind of the big component here at work. BART and Caltrain don't necessarily have the same seasonal fluctuations, so that 85% is kind of where we were at during the highs of the summer. And then through the fall, it does dip down a little bit.
But the summer, the 85% would be, month to month comparison, right? We'd be comparing August to August and July to July and then September, December. So are we, if there's something going on where we're actually having an issue, it'd be good to know.
Yeah,
Normally,
so-
when you look at a line like that, it would be, it would be, something you'd be concerned about. But, sometimes there are blips in the data, or sometimes it's something that's easily explainable.
Yeah, so the way that we calculate it is actually a 6-month average for the pre-pandemic numbers. So there's a summer kind of number that we use during the summer months, and then a winter number that we use during the winter months. We can change that calculation to a month-to-month comparison if you'd like, and that's an easy fix that we can implement moving forward, if that's something we want.
I don't want to tell you what to do because just saying it looks a little concerning.
Yeah, I think you have the right read on it, Chair Wonderman. We are seeing the seasonal dip, and it's because we are comparing to the high ridership months. That dip will rebound and turn around as we compare to the lower ridership season and make that switch. We're also dependent on recreational ridership more than we've ever have been because of the remote work issues. And so that recreational ridership is more impacted by the seasonal change than the commute ridership is. And since we're more dependent on it, we're going to see a more pronounced dip due to that reason. BART increase in ridership, I believe, this is very anecdotal, but they made the change to operating more service in the midday and shorter change and higher frequencies and off-peak, just like we did. They really did what we implemented with the pandemic recovery program just a couple of years later. And I'm hoping that they're seeing an increase in ridership because of that. I think that would be a good sign that what we did was the right thing to do, and what they're doing now is the right thing to do as well. But we'll keep an eye on ridership. We are exploring ways to increase recreational ridership or avoid the reduction in recreational ridership that we normally see in the winter season, with some creative new ideas that we think will bear some fruit. So we're constantly trying new things, and that would be a way for us to preserve ridership during the winter months.
Theoretically, because BART carries a lot more passengers than we do, that rather modest increase on a percentage basis could reflect the entire loss that looks like a roller coaster for WETA. So I don't know, are we losing? I don't, if we're losing riders to BART, that's better than losing riders to their cars. So won't argue with that, but it'd be good to know if there's a way to know that, or maybe it's something else.
I think we're pretty confident we're not losing riders to other transit systems. 99% passenger satisfaction rate. I don't think people are wanting to leave that behind. Our fares are the same, and so there's no financial incentive to leave it behind. I think we're losing riders to doing nothing as an alternative and just staying home instead is what's happening.
Thank you.
Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick update on the on-time performance. So some good news, on-time performance for September was at 96.8% system-wide. That's an increase over August on-time performance of 95.1%. So almost a 2 percentage point jump there, month over month. On-time performance was higher for nearly all routes in the system for September compared to August. Service reliability for September averaged 99.8%, which is also a slight increase over August reliability of 99.6%. And then year to date, leaving the month change behind, but year to date on time performance from January through September averaged 97%, and service reliability for the same period averaged 99.3%, with less than 1% of trips canceled. So we are currently in the process of reviewing the October data that just came out, and that will be in the next December board report. And we're also collecting on-time performance and reliability data from the comparable ferry operators that we outlined in our board report. So looking at New York, Washington State ferries, kids in transit. So we're in the process of getting, there's a little bit of a lag in that data collection. Any questions?
Questions?
On the ridership report or any of the remaining reports?
It's good, no, good, it's a good report. We appreciate the performance of the system. It's
Very much
it's a real strength.
Thank you.
James, what else do you have?
That's it, Chair
That's
Wonderman,
it?
nothing else for the executive director's report.
Board members, any questions for the executive director? Okay, thank you. Appreciate the thorough report. Let's move forward then to the consent calendar. Item number 6 on the calendar, which only includes approving the board minutes from the previous meeting. Can I get a motion on the?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can you call the roll, please?
Director Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Del Bono,
Yes.
Director Hughes.
Yes.
Was I supposed to ask the public if they wanted to comment on it? Did anybody want to comment on it? Right, without objection, the minutes are approved. I didn't think so. Item number 7, Oakland Estuary Water Shuttle Pilot Service Project Agreement.
Have another remote presentation here from Kevin Connolly.
Good afternoon, directors, Chair Wonderman, Kevin Conley, working remote due to COVID protocols. This is a presentation that will be brief on the part of the staff, and we have guests from our partner that I will be calling up at the end, both Rochelle Wheeler from the city of Alameda, as well as Mike O'Hara from Tim Lewis Communities, as well as the Alameda Transportation Management Association are here, and I'm going to bring them up as part of the staff presentation. But just to sort of give a summary of what the memo that's in your packet, staff is recommending authorization to the executive director to enter into a project agreement with the city of Alameda to operate a ferry service, a shuttle service between Oakland and Alameda along the estuary, using a vessel provided by the Alameda Transportation Management Association, working with a sub company called Big Yellow Boat LLC. I'll take just a moment here to go through the major milestone that we've achieved here, and I'll say that this is the 5th major milestone in a series of milestones that extends to 8, and I'm just going to take some time to go through them. The first was the conception of this idea, which was started in the winter of 2022 between the city of Alameda, the TMA, advocates and businesses along the estuary on both sides, Oakland and Alameda, and WETA to come to devise a project that was going to be a service that was operating for free, that would connect Jack London Square with the new development areas along the Alameda waterfront. And it would be a pilot service that would operate for a period of up to 2 years to really understand better the market that exists versus, for example, weekdays versus weekends, commute versus non-commute, family versus individual. That led us to milestone number two, which was the submission and award of a grant of $1 million to the Alameda County Transportation Commission. The grant was submitted in June of 2022. The award was notified to us in June of 2023. However, we did get a heads up early in the spring. So in the spring, we arrived at our 3rd milestone, which was to go to you as a board and authorize an RFP for pilot services that we used to identify 2 operators to serve as a bench for potential services just like this. Milestone number 4 was a critical one, which was the purchase of a vessel. It became clear through the planning process that the docks in question that were most desirable were not going to be suitable to blue and gold vessels, WETA vessels, and our other operator on our bench was Prop SF. They did not have a suitable vessel as well in terms of ADA accessibility. So it was the Alameda TMA that sort of rose to the occasion and volunteered to purchase a vessel, which occurred in September of this year. And WETA staff, as well as Alameda TMA staff, flew to Buffalo, New York to purchase this vessel, which arrives in the Bay Area in 2 weeks. And that leads us to milestone number 5, which is the project agreement that is before you today. Moving forward, we're going to have the certification of the vessel sometime in the new year, in January, we expect. There will be an approval of a blue and gold amendment to operate this service, as we promised to do with all of our pilot services. And then by May or June is our target for the opening day of this service. The service would be characterized as free. It would operate anywhere from 4 to 5 to 6 days per week. And we will likely go reduce the service during the winter months, as we see this as mainly a good weather type of service. It's an open vessel. It's a pontoon boat. It won't be very pleasant in the rain. And that's the sum of it. Now, I will now like to bring up in person Rochelle Wheeler and Mike O'Hara to address the board as well. And as they're making their way up there, I'll just say personally that this has not been, as I just described, this has not gone according to form. There's been many curveballs along the way, and it's been truly productive to work with the team here and on this project. Like we have a lot of project agreements, it really is a partnership, a true partnership between the different agencies. So Rochelle, I'll hand it to you.
Thank you so much, Kevin, and good afternoon. Chair Wonderman, Vice Chair Boyer, board members. I'm Rochelle Wheeler, Senior Transportation Planner with the City of Alameda. And I will say the city and the Alameda community are very excited to have reached this milestone that Kevin talked about today. This is really a critical project for the city of Alameda, and we're happy to be leading this effort. And thank you for your consideration of this agreement. The desire to bridge this gap between Oakland and Alameda across the Oakland estuary and the city's west end has been around for literally decades. People working, living, and recreating in Alameda, Oakland, and beyond have been asking for a solution to the lack of a good bike and pedestrian connection between the west end of Alameda and Jack London Square area, where right now we do have this short hop that happens, thank you, WETA. But right there in the Jack London Square and West Alameda area, Alameda Landing area, in the Posey tube, we have a 3-foot wide path in that tube underground, and that offers the only connection for people walking and biking. So almost 15 years ago, in 2009, the city developed a comprehensive estuary crossing feasibility study report to analyze and evaluate all of the potential strategies for crossing the estuary, either by foot, bike, or transit. And that study looked at 17 different crossing options and characterized them by being near, mid, or long term. And the top recommended midterm option for that study was determined to be a water shuttle service. So very excited to be here today and see that happening. And since then, the city has been looking for opportunities to move that forward, to create a partnership to fund and operate a free public water shuttle service for Alameda and Oakland. But it was only, as Kevin mentioned and described, in early 2022 that the pieces for the shuttle service started to fall into place. And this included private business organizations and associations and transportation management agencies being willing to commit financial resources to this project, which is critical. Also, as Kevin mentioned, the grant from Alameda CTC, which will pay 25% of the project costs. And finally, a really essential part and key part of this was WETA offering to be the water shuttle operator. Bringing WETA's expertise in water operations to the table has been a real game changer for making this water shuttle service closer, bringing it closer to reality than it's really ever been. We've been meeting with WETA staff, as Kevin mentioned, for the past 2 years to develop the many components of this service. Assuming the agreement is approved today, we at the city of Alameda will bring this to our city council to approve in December. We'll also be entering into other agreements to secure the vessel to be used in operations and to assemble and transfer the funding for this. We will be starting to work shortly in collaboration with WETA and our partners on getting the required permits and the marketing efforts, like Kevin said, with the goal to start the service sometime in the May, June of next year. During the 2-year pilot, we will monitor the ridership, evaluate service, we will modify service to meet the demands and desires as funding allows, and we'll just be generally testing these operations. We do hope after the 2-year pilot to continue this service and perhaps even expand it and expand the number of stops. We believe that private funding will only continue to grow because of the continued development along both the Oakland and Alameda waterfronts. This will provide opportunities to expand beyond these 2 initial stops that we have, one on each side of the estuary for the pilot, and expand to other public docks that are being built now by new developments on the estuary. We'll also continue to seek grants and also plan to electrify the vessel also. So I just want to end with 2 points. First, I want to thank WETA's leadership and staff for their commitment to this project, their time and their professionalism. And lastly, looping back to where I began, we've seen an unbelievable amount of community support for this new service. And when I present to people in Alameda or presentations I've done in Oakland, that we will start service next spring, people are literally astounded and can't believe it. And they're very excited that it's finally happening. So we can't wait to invite you all to the ribbon cutting to celebrate this new service. And thank you again for your time and support. And with that, I'll pass it over to Mike O'Hara.
Thanks, Michelle. Chair Wonderman, Vice Chair Moyer, board, staff, everybody, really thrilled to be here today. It's a great day for the Bay Area. It's a great day for public-private partnerships. It's a great day for transportation in general in a very difficult and dark time. I recognize that based on all the stuff we've been hearing for the last hour. My name is Mike O'Hara. I'm president and chairman of the Alameda Transportation Management Association. My day job, I'm a director of forward planning to those communities. I'm a builder, real estate developer. Been involved on the northern waterfront and then forming the TMA. I was kind of one of the first to work with the city staff to kind of pull that together. Instead of making each new project have their own TDM program, we decided it made a whole lot more sense to pull together geographic areas, put them together, raise the funding that way, and create projects that work together to kind of knit the estuary together. That's really one of the primary tenets of what we're all about. We long ago realized as developers the importance of creating alternative means to getting people both around the island and off the island. But we also realized that it goes both ways. There's a lot of Oakland residents that are now working in Alameda and vice versa. And so kind of putting those together and giving them another alternative besides a 3-foot bike path in a tube was kind of the best way to go. We felt like we always felt like utilizing the freeway that already exists, the freeway of water that exists around Alameda between Oakland and Alameda and between Alameda and San Francisco. It's already built. It's already built. So we just need a vessel. So creating better ways of transit is something you're all about and something we're all about. And it's not easy anywhere. That's one key thing here. As you probably hear from Kevin and Michelle's comments. It hasn't been an easy, seamless thing. It's difficult to do that anywhere. But what we think has kind of put things over the top and put us in a position to be able to do something like this is your leadership. Your leadership in thinking about public-private partnerships. That not every estuary or bay crossing has to be in a big ferry. That it could take a different form, like a 25 passenger shuttle operation that gets people from one place to the next in a wonderful environment. There's nothing better than taking a boat, I think, in the bay personally. But you've shown a real commitment and leadership in finding new ways for transit. So we really appreciate that. At this point, I want to acknowledge your staff. Kevin and Tim Hanners have been integral parts of our figuring stuff out. We learned last summer, over the last year and a half, a lot of things we didn't know. And it's been through WETA staff and expertise, as Michelle mentioned, that we've kind of gotten there. So thank you to them in particular, Michelle and Brian McGuire and Brad McCrae, working with the city, working to advance the city of Alameda's interests, have been amazing, and have pulled off an amazing feat to get here. And then Lucy Julie, our TDM manager, countless hours on pulling this together. So Rochelle mentioned the lessons that we learned. The first thing we realized we needed was a boat. We didn't know what the operation was going to look like without figuring out what the boat was. So we literally had to go. There was nothing in the Bay Area, so we ended up buying a boat in Buffalo, New York. We sent a bunch of people there to go check it out. It's a 45-foot 2-pontoon boat with an anticipated capacity of 25 to 30, somewhere in there. But we had to look far and wide to find that boat. We finally, once we figured that out, we figured out a way to fund it, and so we formed a new company, Big Yellow Boat LLC, to acquire the boat. And so we have it. It'll be on a truck tomorrow. So that was the first step. We still have a lot of work to do between now and the spring. And one of the things that we will, as we're getting the boat ready for service and completing all these agreements and finishing the milestones that we need, we'll also be completing our funding with the many partners that have stepped up to do that. We'll be finalizing that. But the one thing I wanted to just touch on real quickly is Michelle mentioned some of the new developments coming online and the need or the hopes to be able to expand this. We want this shuttle pilot to be a huge success over the 2 years. But then at the end of the 2 years, after ACTC's generous grant runs out, we need to continue to fund it. And I think we've created a model here that hopefully can be replicated. And hopefully we can, working together, we can say that this was the first of many of this model that we can look back on and say that it was very successful. So closing, I really want to thank you for your creativity and your leadership in this. And we urge you to approve this agreement so we can move forward and get going for this late spring start. So thank you again. Appreciate it.
So are we at the point where we take public comment, or maybe we should take public comment ahead of the board comment on this one? Because I know there's folks here and I think we've received communications and so forth. So maybe we'll start there. So Melanie, you want to read off the names of folks who signed up for the chore?
Hi, my name is Alex Prisco and I work for Prop SF. First of all, I want to say I'm a huge proponent of the service. I think it's going to be great. I'll tell you, for the past 6 years, I've been attending these meetings to promote props and the services we provide as a small boat operator. I'm speaking today with a certain level of frustration and disappointment. For the second time, I'm seeing a project that I initiated and spent time developing, taken by WETA without any recognition of our efforts. And in 2019, Matthew Kochman and I conceived of the San Francisco waterfront ferry. We brought it to WETA in 2020, participate with us, but got little interest. Now, post-COVID, WETA's come out with and presented this same service as part of their expansion within the Bay Area. And now today, WETA is discussing the Oakland Alameda Estuary Service, a service that I started talking about with Blue Rise Ventures and Jack London Square back in 2020, not 2022. The result of that was 2 summers of pilot services that we operated for them. Both of these projects Rob spent a considerable amount of time and effort and provided WETA with all the information that we got from those budgets, schedules, forecasts, the works. I've attended these meetings in good faith. I've presented Prop as an operator that is open to participating with WETA, and we have done everything we can to make ourselves as available and acceptable as an operator for WETA. And yet, we are not respected or acknowledged, it feels. At that point, today's agenda states that Blue and Gold was selected to operate the estuary service because they have more variety of vessel operating experience, have more maintenance experience, and more available crew. As a small boat operator, specifically small boats, which this is, Prop already has deep and very successful experience in operating small boats again, in and around the bay, not just in and around the bay, but on this particular service. Further, we already have extensive maintenance experience with small boats. Finally, as far as crew goes, we have crew ready to go. We have crew that work part-time right now, waiting for the opportunity when we expand. Again, experience on small boats, experience on this service particularly. And yet Blue and Gold is considered better suited for this service. All the budgets and schedules that we submitted, all the discussions that we've had, at no time did anyone think to ask us about our ability to operate the boat, maintain the boat, or staff the boat. And as the only small boat operator that was selected as an on-call service provider for WETA, I say again, I am frustrated and disappointed that the recommendation has been presented here today as it is. I'll close by asking you to reconsider that. Who would really be better suited as an operator?
Thank you. Who's next, Melanie?
Emily Gilbert.
Good afternoon, Chair Wonderman and directors. Emily Loper with Bay Area Council. I just wanted to voice my strong support for moving forward with this partnership. This water shuttle is just a very common sense solution to connect the waterfront communities in Oakland and Alameda. It will also bring a lot more activity in and around the Jack London terminal site. We were proud to support the ACTC grant application to secure funding for this, and we're committed to working together to secure more funding to make sure that the service is robust enough to make it a really attractive option for people. I also just want to applaud WETA for thinking really creatively about ways to access new markets very quickly, potentially with different vessel types and different types of services, and how quickly that this service can come online. It's very exciting. We're really happy to see it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Loper. Next up.
Okay, it's gonna be the ones participating remotely, starting with
Justin Wynn, next.
Hi, I'm Justin Nguyen. I represent Bike East Bay. We're excited to be in full support of this agreement to really provide critical service from Oakland to Western Alameda. We appreciate the ferry crossings, but we look forward to increased service, increased headways, for opportunity people connect across the East Bay estuary. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Diego Gonzalez.
Thank you. Diego Gonzalez, Acting Government Affairs Manager for the Port of Oakland. Happy to register my support on board a ferry right now in the estuary for this exciting new project. Thank you, WETA. Proud to be supporters and a partner.
Thanks, Mr. Gonzalez. Are there other folks signed up to speak?
I believe Alameda Chamber.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Madeline Sadek, President and CEO of Alameda Chamber and Economic Alliance. Thank you to the board and thank you to Jim Wonderman. We would like to extend our support for this amazing item. As you all know that we have a great opportunity now in Alameda. We're having a large employers attracted to Alameda, and this amazing project that you're working on will be an amazing transportation way for people, employers and employees from Alameda to Oakland and round trip. I think this is long overdue now. So thank you so much. And we want to register our support.
Thanks, Madeline. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Other folks who signed up to testify?
No one else has signed up.
Is there anyone else who wished to make a comment? Go ahead, sir. Absolutely, sure.
Robert Estrada, and the Boatman's Union Regional Director, and while we represent workers on both Blue and Gold Fleet and Prop SF. Yeah, good relations and good workers across the board there. To not speak to that aspect of this, I would just like to say that I really appreciate forward-leaning efforts and the approach to setting up projects like this. You know, there's such an opportunity and maybe an inclination, I think, for people coming out of COVID as we have to sort of shrink in to our shells and be hesitant to try to venture out into new territory. And I've not seen that with the board. I've seen, as I say, forward-leaning efforts, and I really appreciate that. And I hope that it's a success, and I hope that we have more of these, and that we have more opportunities to get things like this going, to improve these efforts along the way. So thank you for that. That was so too.
Thanks, Mr. Estrada. Anyone else would like to comment on item 7?
Just to note, Chair Wonderman, there was also a written comment of support from Bike Walk
Alameda submitted a letter of support. So let me start by saying, first of all, to Kevin's initial comment, which was reiterated, nothing is simple. And just reading the report on this, reaffirmed that when I was looking through it now, that how many different agencies are involved and the different hoops you had to jump through to make it happen. And obviously there was a lot of determination. And one of the things about the ferry business that's obvious is it takes a lot of partnerships and a lot of confidence and a lot of work to make stuff happen. So we appreciate the support and the efforts that were made. I suspect at some point along the line, maybe some of you wondered whether this was going to happen or not, because it sounds, the things you didn't say, like maybe you thought that at times, but congratulations for getting it this far. To Alex's point for on the Prop SF, I mean, anytime we get into competitive environment, it's tough, and I'm kind of a little surprised, to hear that they were so involved in creating the opportunity, and I can understand feeling left behind at the terminal. When you go through this, and I don't know all the details. I'm just seeing this now, so just know, Alex, from my point of view, it's I think very, very highly of you. I think very highly of Prop. I know it's a hard business to be in. I think very highly of Blue and Gold, who we worked with, a lot for a long time. So, I hope that somehow or other we can, that Mr. Estrada's comment that, this won't be the last opportunity, that this can be a model for the kinds of things we can do in the future, because we need to. And I suspect this will be successful, and will reaffirm to new people that water transit is a really good alternative. So, I do regret that you went through all of that, and hopefully, things will be different in the future. I can't promise anything because we're not in the board isn't in the business of rating scores. Maybe I can just ask the executive director and the team how, to the extent you can say, and I don't know what you can say, or know, how was the decision arrived at?
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit, but I think just stepping back, there isn't a decision yet. I think the staff report makes it clear that we plan to recommend that Blue and Gold will be the operator, but that is a subsequent action that the board will consider at a future board meeting. There will be a contract.
We're not voting on that today.
You're not voting on the operator today, but staff did assess the qualifications of both of the operators under our contract with private operators, and I'm going to ask Kevin to provide a little bit more flavor on those qualifications and ultimately what we plan to bring to the board as far as a recommendation in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say that part of the dynamic here, I think you gathered from the comments made by the two presenters, our partners, was we unexpectedly purchased a boat for this service. It was the full expectation when we started this that we would be able to use a contractor's vessel and get the benefit of that. But when it became clear that no vessel really was suited to the service and the infrastructure, then we had to pivot and make a different decision. And that changed the dynamic of how we did things. We tried to do a summer preview of this service with Prop, but unfortunately Prop did not have a vessel that really was going to fit for the service. I mean, the one vessel that was a possibility wasn't EDA acceptable. And that wasn't really, no one on the team felt comfortable with that, nor would we legally be able to do that. Moving on, I think our decision about Blue and Gold had to do with, as we said in the memo, that Blue and Gold has a lot of staffing and it'll be critical for this service with only one vessel to not fall short of staff. And so they have a deep bench of staff. They actually look to this service as a potential training ground for new captains, which we actually encourage because that helps us with having more captains available. We have experienced that as a problem in the past. And finally, they have a much deeper level of expertise on vessel maintenance. And they have nearby vessel maintenance facilities that are actually our facilities, but they man. And so that just became the sort of clear-cut advantage here. But what I will recognize Prop's work in the initial stages, especially that early work. He's absolutely right that pre-pandemic, WETA was not interested in participating in this, and there's been a change of heart on the part of WETA and the executive director and the board as well. So that definitely is a shift that the organization that we made as well.
Thanks. Other comments, questions from the board?
I'll leave that one. I mean, with the shift, I think just for the public that there was definitely board members that were interested in small boat service prior to the executive director and COVID. It didn't get its footing. So I think we have a board that is definitely interested in going forward. I recognize Prop SF too for their work with labor and having organized labor on their boats and things like that. So I definitely am a fan and hope there's going to be opportunity in the future that we can work with our small boat contractor to get them out there and doing service. So, and then with that, I'm interested. I think some of my board members might be too. Where does this boat go? Where does it,
Yeah.
So there's like, what docks are we using? Where, like, is there a map? Is there something that shows the service where it's going to pick up, drop off, things like that? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Rochelle could answer this, but let me just take it. I think we're actually purposely a little vague on the service schedule because it's still being worked out and there's still discussions going on with potential sponsors of the service. But fundamentally, the service will go from the 5th Street dock in Alameda, which is known colloquially by Alameda residents as the Target dock, but actually has another name, which is actually not the 5th Street dock, and Rochelle can help me out. It's a long name, a park name. And it will go to the Broadway dock in Alameda. I'm sorry, Broadway dock in Oakland. And that's a dock owned by the Port of Oakland, and the Port has committed to reserving slip space for the dock there. The 5th Street dock in Alameda is the troublesome piece of the puzzle because it is really rated as a kayak launch, and it would not be, it's not stable enough for bigger vessels to go to. That's why we turned to purchase of a smaller, lighter vessel.
So I guess one of my questions would be, are we going to get voting on this now, because there is a schedule, but the docks, if we're not being public, if it's not out that these are the docks that are going to be used, is there going to be an opportunity to the public to comment on what docks are being used? And would that have to come back to the board at some point? Because if there's a complaint on something we're voting on now that's not out in the public, I would have a concern with that. Like if these docks, public docks like Fifth Street or kayakers currently using it now, are we gonna hear, are we cutting off an opportunity to get feedback from the public, good or bad, on which docks are being used? That's my question.
Yeah, I would just say, Rochelle, that's probably the better question directed to you.
Thank you for the question. We have a map on our website. And right now we're envisioning that the service would go between the dock that's at the foot of Fifth Street, which is, there's a new development, sometimes referred to as Alameda Landing. There's a new waterfront park there that just opened, I think it was last year. It's been named the Bowl Circle Immigrant Park. And there is a public dock there that the city owns. It actually has a reserved area for water shuttle service, because it was always intended that there, and it has separately a lower kayak launching side of it as well, and then it has a public docking space. So it has a reserved space for a water shuttle. So the idea is it would go from that dock over to the dock that is a Port of Oakland dock, that's literally right at the one that's right at the foot of Broadway, which is also a public dock. And we as the city are committing to allowing our dock, and this agreement actually includes that provision that our dock can be used for this service, and outlines how that will happen. And then we as a city are committing to working with the Port of Oakland and their property management entity, CIM Group, on, and we've been talking to them for a long time about this, but we will be using, we'll have to get the appropriate BCDC permits, but to use that public dock. And so we're making all the headway we can on that effort as well.
So then with BCDC and the city of Alameda, there'll be an opportunity for the public on the dock meetings if that comes up, good or bad, right?
Yeah, I would say for the city of Alameda's dock, I mean, when this development was built and the development there, the housing development built that dock, it was always intended to be a water shuttle dock. So I don't think we really envision more public comment on that. And certainly through the BCDC process, there would be an opportunity for comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Director Moore.
Yeah, so for all of you that have been working so hard on this, I first want to say this is very, very exciting. Can you hear me, Robert? Yeah, thank you. This is a great opportunity to connect two beautiful shoreline spaces to each other and give people the opportunity to be on the estuary and enjoy it. Just Thomas, I hope you'll roll this into your fantastic campaign on how cheap it is to see the waterfront vis-a-vis the ferry system, because I think this is going to be amazing. I'm super excited about that. I do, maybe Tim, this is a question for you. Is the new vessel, is it diesel? What is the proposed new vessel gonna be?
Tim Henners, Manager of Operations and Engineering. So I was one of the people who went to Buffalo to see the vessel.
I had a feeling.
Yeah. So it's a Coast Guard certified vessel. We'll have to take it here and have local sector sign off on it. It has 2 outboard gas engines. It would be great for this service. We'll also have the ability in the future, if this is successful, to convert that to all electric pretty easily. Would be some infrastructure work that we need to do, but we like the potential of that on this vessel also.
Okay, and then if I understand from Kevin, it's ADA accessible?
Yes, it is.
And is there a place on the vessel that's covered for passengers? I'm trying to picture it in my mind.
Yeah, there is. There's a canopy, just in a heavy weather event.
Yeah, well, I was afraid of that. So, okay, so I'm super supportive and super excited about this. And Kevin, I really appreciate all of the criteria you explained about how the decision was made. I do really want to say that we've made a commitment and an investment in small crafts, so I'm excited to see this go forward. But as I listened to you, I heard all the barriers to entry, and that's not who we are. So I really want to be on the record strongly. Director Murphy is saying that we need to work on that. I really appreciate all that Blue and Gold does as our partner. And the first item we had today was evidence of how strong that partnership is and how we need to lean on that. But we also, we need to be inclusive. The Bay is a very big bay, and we need to work on those partnerships a little harder and those barriers to entry. So I am supportive of this project. It's phenomenal. But I am disappointed that we couldn't leverage this to be inclusive in the way that we said that we would be. So I know we have smart minds in this room, including our partnership with Blue and Gold, and I hope that we can continue to do great things. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Moore. Director Du.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I'm super excited about this, just as a concept. And looking at this as a potential roadmap for other pilots projects that could potentially come up, perhaps in Vallejo between Mare Island and the mainland, or even maybe like Napa and Vallejo. I've learned over the years having these multiple public-private partnerships is really the way to get some exciting work done. So I'm excited to see that. And then I also, along the lines of Director Del Bono's comments, like I saw a lot of detail around the city dock, the Bohol Circle Immigrant Park dock at the foot of Fifth Street, but not so much on the other side. And so I was just curious if there was any concerns on that side of the equation. And so I don't know if that might be addressed. And then I had similar concerns to what Director Moyer mentioned. I was actually going to bring that up on the next item, item 8, about making sure that we are helping businesses build capacity, and so that we have multiple partners and are able to support those partners that have been working with us in the past.
Thank you. Was there a question that you wanted to answer?
I just wasn't sure if there was any concerns on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Docking equation.
Let me just jump
Happy
in.
to answer that. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Michelle. No, go ahead. You do it.
Oh, I thought you wanted to jump in. Sorry. Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. And we do feel like there are different opportunities on the Jack London Square side for docking. We have our eyes set on that dock, the public dock at the foot of Broadway. That's what we've been actively talking with the CIM group about, and like how we could do that, and making sure we can reserve the area for this service, and what the vehicle, quote unquote vehicle would be to do that, what kind of agreements we need. And that is a role that the city is leading. Obviously, we're working closely with WETA on that, but we're leading that, and we do feel like that will work out. It's not totally nailed down yet, but there's lots of support on that side for this service. And to the point that someone made, I think it was the vice chair, about getting out on the water, just to get out on the water. We have heard from Jack London Square, the property management, that there are a lot of people Jack London Square who just want to be on the water. They don't necessarily want to go anywhere. They just want to get on the water. And so we're excited to be providing one more opportunity for that.
Any other comments, questions from directors? So, again, I think this is terrific. It's leadership, it's creativity, it's determination to get to this point where we can act on it. And, it's sort of, in the comments from my fellow directors, it sort of begs the question of, what else can we do that's like this? Because, as was said, Director Del Bono and others, this isn't first conversation we've had about the application of small vessels. There's just a lot of, cases in which running a full-sized catamaran, the kind that we run, isn't applicable. And yet, from the trip that we took in San Francisco a few weeks ago, you see, and I would hope to see much more of, and we're seeing some of the kind of watered up front development pattern emerging in the Bay Area. So we see different developments happening. Some of them are commercial, some of them are residential, maybe most of them are mixed use, but they're happening. And attaching those to other happening developments along the waterfront seems to be like a really big opportunity. And I would urge the staff to look at that, sort of enumerate, what are some of the potential. This one's kind of obvious. It's got this estuary and hard to get across. But when you look at it in a more linear fashion around the bay, there may be, you mentioned Vallejo to Napa, there's a lot of, I think, I suspect a lot of potential for this. And I think it's our charge to at least, administrate it or look at it or lead it and so forth. So I'm excited about it. Again, to Vice Chair Moyer's point, I was thinking the same thing with something very similar, that, as much as we appreciate Blue and Gold, since they do all of this stuff with us, it's a huge advantage in any competitive situation because they're already there and we know them, and, so forth. And, the labor agreements that we have really should balance the staffing equation somewhat, because we have that. So, I do hope in the future we're able to take that into consideration and look for more opportunities, to have, more competition and more involvement from more folks. I think it's, beneficial. And, I say that with, feeling that we're very, very fortunate to have the relationship we have with Blue and Gold. So with that, I think there's an action item, right?
Correct.
But we're not acting to award a contract to Blue and Gold on this one. We're entering into a contract with Alameda Transit, Alameda County, with the city of Alameda. That's the limit of it?
That's right.
Okay, so I'll take a motion. If it's okay, I'll take a motion on the item.
I'll move it.
Director Jew, is that a motion?
Yes,
That's a
I'll
motion.
move that.
I already did the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
Look at that. The brave and the bold. So we've got a motion and a second. Can you call the roll, please?
Chair Wonderman,
Aye.
Vice Chair Moyer. Yes. Director Del Bono.
Yes.
Director Hughes.
Yes.
Okay, that was great. Thank you. Thank you for taking us through that. Let's go to item 8. Award of a contract to a Bay Ship and Yacht Company for the Bay Breeze engine rebuild and replacement work.
Thank you, Chair Wonderman, Vice Chair Moyer, board members. I'm Jeff Howell, Engineering and Maintenance Administrator. So the Bay Breeze Port Main engine is approaching hours, which require an engine overhaul. The work expected on the engine is highest level of effort in the rebuild of an engine. And we pursued a plan to remove the engine from the vessel and replace it with our current spare engine for several reasons. Star's engine has successfully renewed with a similar process in 2022. The spare engine for this vessel is unique to this vessel and not required to maintain for any of the other vessels in our fleet. Most importantly, this plan will reduce the amount of out of service time for this vessel over other options. The schedule allows for this work in the shipyard to be completed in about 2 weeks, actually about 15 days. And it covers about 800 labor hours to do the work. We followed all the required steps in the procurement process. We use a platform called Bonfire. This gets the procurement out to many agencies to bid on. We did have interest in comments from other shipyards. Some of the reasons they didn't bid on it was location. Some of the shipyards are out of the area, and it's not feasible for them to bid on a contract this small because the cost to move to their shipyard is quite expensive. Bay Ship and Yacht was the only proposer in this. We did find their proposal fair and reasonable. We did some negotiations, so maybe a little bit lower price than we're recommending here. So the price of $142,000 we will not exceed. And our recommendation is to go award it to Bay Ship and Yacht. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on this.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions, comments from directors?
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Board? Are members of the public signed up to speak on item number 8?
No one has time.
Would anyone like to comment on item 8? Okay, if not, please call the roll.
Chair Wonderman.
Yeah.
Moyer.
Yes.
Director Novono.
Yes.
Director.
Yes.
Okay. I think you're anticipating that I'm going to call item number 9. Fair? Okay, item number 9 in that case, authorized release of request for proposals for website redesign project.
Dr. Wonderman, Vice Chair Moyer, and Directors. Hi, I'm Alexis Matsui. For those of you who haven't gotten to meet in person yet, I joined WETA about 2 months ago as a digital communication specialist under Tom Paul's shop at Information and Marketing. One of my first big priorities was to take a look at our website. So today we're requesting authorization to release an RFP to redesign San Francisco Bayferry.com and WETA.sanfranciscobayferry.com. So San Francisco Bayferry.com, we're going to be talking about both sites, but I want to start with our primary site, which is passenger facing. So as you all know, the main site, San Francisco Bayferry.com, is it's aimed at passengers and potential passengers interested in riding the ferry for commuting, for recreational reasons, for any reason they might want to get on the water. The purpose of the site is to just get riders the information they need so that they can get on boat. We need them to be able to get to their schedules, get to their routes, see service alerts, and understand major news and initiatives that are going to affect their ride. So in looking at the current site, we've identified some potential areas of improvement. The site was developed back in 2012, and for the time, it was great. It was great at the time. I was developing websites at the time, and that's pretty much what I would have built. But I think there's been a lot of great digital innovation since then, and we can do a lot better for our passengers' digital experience. So right now, the routes and schedules are a little difficult to find and clumsy to navigate. It's a really text-heavy design. You've got to read a lot to get what you need. We have real-time service information, but it's not on the website. The trip planner only gives you a link to the routes and schedules page to figure it out yourself. And it doesn't perform that well on mobile. There's been a lot of new cool things you can do on your phone, and you can't do them on this site. We meet very basic ADA and language requirements, but there have been a lot of advancements in accessibility, and I think we can do better there. And then just as somebody who uses the site on the back end architecture is very outdated. It's cumbersome. It takes a lot of staff time, and a newer system would just save us a lot of time. So there's a lot of websites out there. These are just a few examples. So BART.gov, the NYC Ferry, Caltrain just recently redid their website. So you're seeing some trends in public transportation websites. Very quick, upfront links to the tools that you need, big graphic design, heavy features, and a dynamic design. So if I change the size of my window, it actually changes the size of the site. So some of the goals for the redesign, like any project, the goal is to increase ridership and increase the passenger experience. But insofar that the website can serve this goal, we want an increase in site visitors, especially to the trip planning tools of the areas of the site. We want to see an increase in participation and engagement with the social media things that we share, and more followers and engagement on those channels. An increase in subscriptions to our SMS services, real-time information, and newsletters. An increase in the satisfaction rating for passenger communications whenever we do those surveys, and a decrease in the number of complaints and clarifying questions that passengers have to make to our customer service. Some of the things that we would really like to see in a new site, we want to have an interactive service map, schedules that you can interact with, location-based terminal to terminal planning, obviously real-time service alerts integrated, like I said, better language translation and ADA services, a streamlined online ticket buying experience. And I want the ability to both create really complex, interesting, interactive features and put up a news item really quickly on as a blog post. So both sides of the spectrum in terms of the complexity of a page. And we want to have a media center with access to our press releases, earned media, photography, video clips, and really help the kind of PR side of it. Like I said, I was going to mention WETA.sanfranciscobayferry.com. The audience there is our industry partners, our government officials, media, and people who are interested in that side of the business. Purpose there is really to provide transparency into everything that the board does and all of our capital projects. We talked a little bit about the branding. One stage of that is that with the redesign plans, we plan to roll WETA.sanfranciscobayferry into the main San Francisco Bay Ferry site. We're going to have content easily findable, roll it into one that will kind of lead toward a more consolidated branding experience and users. To evaluate the proposers here, the main thing we're going to look at is qualifications and experience. We want to look at vendors that have worked both in transportation and with the public sector, not necessarily both, but it'd be great if it was a public transportation project. An understanding of the services and requests that were requested and their proposed approach. One note here, we would really like to work with a company that has an iterative approach to this. What I don't want to do is come back to you all in 11 years and talk about why our site is outdated and why we need a whole new one. I want to try to find a company that can make small to moderate changes year by year as they become available, as features become outdated, as new technologies come on board. So that means investing a little bit more year by year and less giant website redesign every decade. We'll also be looking at the qualifications of key personnel and the reasonableness of proposals, the cost proposals. So the fiscal year 24 budget includes $500,000 for development and implementation of the website redesign project. So that's not ongoing year to year, but just for the implementation. We've recently prepared a digital asset management system for $16,000 that will very much ease the implementation of this project. And we'll be looking at funding for future years in that iterative approach as we look at your budgets. Just a little bit about the timeline. Right now, we're just asking you to authorize a request for proposals. We're talking high-level features. We'll hopefully come back to you guys with a goal to award a contract in March. And that's a time where we can talk a little bit more into detail about how these features are going to be feeling. Project about a 6-month build, but that's I guess at this time with a prospective launch in October. So with that, obviously, we really value your input. You guys are users of the insights, and I want to open it up for some discussion. We want to know, what areas of the website you guys all think could really use improvements. Any new features that weren't mentioned that you think we really need to consider. If there are other sites that we should be looking at for inspiration and any other feedback.
Thank you, Ms. Matsui. Okay, a couple of questions. First of all, thank you and welcome aboard. And look forward to this project. It's exciting to freshen up and move into the era of technology that's current. Used to be things lasted longer, but they don't anymore. So I guess we have to accept that. $500,000. So what makes you think this is a $500,000 project? It seems like a lot of money.
In full disclosure, the budgeting for this was before my time here, but I've been told that they were looking at a lot of different transit agencies, recent projects that were built.
Yeah, great question. Question we asked ourselves budget time last year that Aaron asked. We really reached out to local transit, had done recent redesigns We're not committing to spend this much money. We hope that the bids come in much lower than that and then we redirect it this money. But that's what we're setting the top end at.
And, you know, a little mention earlier today about WETA name. So as, not that we couldn't change it later, but it would seem like if we wanted to think about dealing with the fact that we have a name that people can't pronounce, they don't understand completely, and we have to sort of use another name, you know, it doesn't seem like it's, the branding of it has worked out as well as, and I know I was partly responsible for this a long time ago, so I own this to a large degree, not entirely, but large degree. But, you know, should we be thinking about that now? You know, and, you know, I think to change the name would require legislation. And this is the time of year when legislation kind of happens in Sacramento. You know, that's the conversation we could be having. So what do you think?
So I'll let Seamus jump in anytime he wants to on this particular conversation, but it is something we talked about internally, as Seamus alluded to earlier. And I think it's something where we talked about coming back to the board before award of this contract to talk about some of those branding issues. How I'm envisioning this is a section of the website that's about the agency, and it gets into the specifics of the WETA stuff that is not San Francisco Bay Area stuff. That's how I tend to think about it. But I think it's worth having a broader public conversation with the board and with our stakeholders about the branding of the agency versus the service that we offer.
Yeah,
That's right. And I think that we may be able to effectively do that for the public that we serve without changing the WETA name and statute. I point to the Peninsula Corridor Joint Powers Authority, which is Caltrain. And nobody ever hears it described as the Peninsula Corridor Joint Powers Authority. It's always just Caltrain. And maybe a year from now, nobody will hear it described as WETA, and the acronym, we'll just know it as San Francisco Bay Fair.
okay, so we don't need to, we certainly don't need to decide on that today. So I
No,
think
but-
it's worth
I do want to say that the branding consideration will obviously be informed by, or the website will be informed by the brand.
great. Comments from questions, Director Galvan?
Just, I might have missed it on the thing, but I'm hoping that on the website, because it's great that we have a website that actually functions nice first. But on the website, is there gonna be like, when you get off, like, say in Alameda or Vallejo, are you gonna have a place where we can link in, like, where, you know, whatever transportation agency with buses, taxis, and Uber, or something that maybe we can have a reference for our passengers to just, if they're landing in Richmond, and hey, here's where I go, BART, AC, you know, just to figure out connections and our services that might come to ride services or taxis or whatever. I'm curious if that's something we can possibly help.
There's one of the big priorities here is to work with a company that works with public transportation organizations and has the latest GTFS data, works with all of those different apps, works with we work with a lot of transit organizations, Swiftly, and all these other programs that bring different transit organizations together. So yeah, that we don't know exactly what that would look like, and that's one of the things we're going to be asking for proposers to come with us.
I just get, so just to sum it up, but you know, when you get off the ferry, going somewhere, how do I get there? If I'm going out to the Richmond district, what's my easiest route? Something like that they can just.
Yeah, I think trip planning services especially could be very much improved. I mean, part of that is then your phone knowing where you are and knowing where the next thing is and how to get there. So yes, that's going to be a very big part.
Thank you.
Yeah, just comments along the same lines. Integration with the app and so I don't know if it's going to replace the app or integrate with the app, and easier ability to purchase tickets. And I saw a mention of signage and stuff like that. So it'd be great to have like when I was getting on the ferry today, there were many people in line that were like, do I buy it on the boat? Like, how do I get my ticket? And the staff on the gangway were trying to, lead people like, oh, you can buy it on the the app or on the online, and it was just confusing to a lot of people. And then I also mentioned like text messaging. I get my notifications from the app and I prefer that. I get enough text messages from a lot of sources. And so I'd rather just have the push notifications from the app or however that looks. That's been effective for me personally.
This is definitely something we talked about in terms of how it matches with the look and feel of the app and any sort of integration. The app is really exists for those real-time notifications and ticketing. We're hopeful that once C2 comes along and we have open payments where people can just tag the credit card without having Clipper accounts or anything like that, and get on the ferry, that reduces the need for ticketing. We will likely still need the app for those real-time notifications for folks who prefer that, in addition to reservation-based services, but definitely want to match the look and feel of the app and the website. A bigger consideration here for us is that we're going to put a lot of investment into the website, not just in terms of the upfront money that we're going to spend on it and the ongoing support that we're going to be paying for it to ensure that it stays up to date and has the latest and greatest features that make it a great experience for our passengers, potential passengers. We also want that website to work better on a cell phone than it does on your desktop at home. We know more people use our website on their cell phone than they do at their office or at home. So we want people to be able to get those trip planning tools, the schedules, the connections, all of that stuff on the website, on their phone, and it feel like they're using an app because it's just perfect. So that's going to be a major consideration, both as we evaluate proposers and get into the implementation phase as well.
Another issue I saw today was with the Clipper that they can only purchase or one ticket at a time. So there was a group of women that one of them had a Clipper card. She's like, oh, I'm taking care of everybody. And they're like, no, you can only take care of yourself. So
yeah, that's an ongoing issue with Clipper. That's part of the reason we have the app and we did the integrated ticketing system for Durban a couple of years ago, was because we have a lot of families, a lot of groups that can't do that with Clipper currently. There is, I think, movement in the next phase of Clipper to be able to buy discrete tickets for local members of your family, so that you don't have to give your 7-year-old their own phone with the card attached to it.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Director Moore, any further thoughts, comments?
But no, I'm excited for it. My favorite transportation website so far is the New York Metro, but because you can plan your whole trip and know where you're going. So anything that to me, that's the gold standard. So anything that gets us closer to that would be great.
Great. Okay, members of the public on this one?
No one has signed up.
No one has signed up.
We wore them out.
We wore them out if possible. Well, not necessarily, because they still have an opportunity. See?
Be nice if somewhere on this website, the IBU and MMP logos were to be found. Plus, partners.
Very good point. All partners. For that one.
Right next to the mayor and council. I said next to.
My office next to the
You can have your office in the mayor and council. We'll talk outside. Okay. Any other members of the public wish to comment? So this is a really great opportunity for us. I wish you well with it, and we'll, I think, have a chance to chime in along the way, and maybe we'll have some sessions, things where we can kind of look at it in real time and so forth, and make the most of the opportunity. So this is an action item, so it requires a motion and a second for us to enable the funding to come forward for this. Who wishes to make that motion?
I will move that motion.
Motion made and second. Call roll, please.
Chair Wonderman.
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer.
Yes.
Director Del Pono.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move to item number 10, fiscal 2024 marketing campaign.
Great. Thank you, Chair Wonderman, Vice Chair Moore, Directors. Tom Hall, Public Information Marketing Manager. I have a couple of guests here to help present this today. Sarah Eggerman and Dan Hudson from McKenzie Communications, our public relations and marketing team. And so we're going to just run through an overview of our plan for integrated marketing campaign in 2024. as I mentioned last month at the meeting, we did some individual campaigns trying to target some different communities and audiences in FY '23. We learned a lot from that. One of the things I learned was that we really need to do it in a more comprehensive way instead of shooting moving targets with different bows. Let's get one big bow and shoot the whole Bay Area as a target. That was a really bad analogy. But essentially, to work with one consultant to come up with a consistent message that we can use across all audiences and a number of different integrations. So we're working with Mackenzie, who, as you know, has been one of our trusted consultants on public relations and marketing for many years now, and had a really good pitch and proposal to put together for this. There's really 5 objectives of this year-long campaign. The first is our goal with every thing that we do in my shop, which is grow ridership, simply by reaching new audiences in new ways. Want to amplify broader awareness of the San Francisco Bay Ferry brand, strengthen our brand recall by really establishing our personality, our values, and our voices. Congratulations, bless you. And then communicate our commitment, our continued commitment to accessibility and equity as demonstrated in the pandemic recovery program that you approved in 2021. In addition, identify and target expanded rider segments throughout the system, throughout the region, bring them on board the system. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah from Mackenzie to walk through the next set of slides here.
Good afternoon, Chair Wonderman, Vice Chair Moyer, and Directors. Sarah Hagerman, Vice President at Mackenzie. Very excited to be here today to discuss our strategy and plan for this 12-month campaign. So to meet those campaign objectives that Tom just walked us through, we have developed a comprehensive framework which leverages a mix of tactics, including these 5 campaign legs here. Starting with paid media or advertising, which is a big part of this overall campaign. Brand activations, including immersive onboard activities, as well as collaborations and partnerships that help convey our brand personality and build brand loyalty. Community events, which include both hosted and sponsorship opportunities in and around the many communities that San Francisco Bay Ferry serves. Earned media, making sure that we're communicating all of San Francisco Bay Ferry's ongoing initiatives to garner coverage and gain exposure. And then, of course, leveraging San Francisco Bay Ferry's ongoing marketing and comms efforts to drive awareness and engage with our current audience. So taking a closer look here at the paid media tactics and channels. Again, when we talk about paid media, we're really talking about advertising across multiple channels. And our objectives with this leg of the framework really is to utilize digital and programmatic opportunities, which are a great way to get in front of broad and new audiences, as well as drive traffic to the website. It's also a lot easier to track, monitor, and pivot as needed through those digital channels. We'll be leveraging home ads, which is really just a fancy way to say a billboard or a BART ad, for example. And then, of course, engaging with diverse audiences in low ridership communities. And again, those digital marketing platforms really gives us that reach and ability to do that. So this is a brief overview and breakdown of all of the paid media channels and tactics that we will be leveraging. From the digital marketing standpoint, we will be running video ads on streaming services such as Hulu, YouTube TV, as well as free streaming platforms like Tubi. We'll be running digital audio ads on Spotify, as well as other platforms. Driving website traffic via digital banner ads on local online publications and blogs. And we'll also be running some Google search ads as well. In terms of social media, this will include a mix of paid ads and influencer partnerships across all of the channels in both English and Spanish. So we'll also be advertising across multiple out-of-home channels, including strategically selected billboards in targeted communities and high traffic corridors, which has really paid off in previous campaigns. Targeting BART stations near and around the ferry terminals, as well as looking at bus shelters and even potentially wraps in and around the East Bay. We'll also be amplifying our message through traditional radio and local stations in both English and Spanish. And then lastly, as part of this paid portion, we'll be identifying opportunities for sponsored articles and branded content in e-newsletters across a handful of online local outlets, some of which are listed here. So moving on to the brand activation activations, you know, we really see these as opportunities to bring the San Francisco Ferry brand and personality to life. They're a unique way to express what San Francisco Bay Ferry stands for through tailored experiences and collaborations. As I'm sure you'll recall, last year, the Brews with Views lineup was a huge success. And so this year we will be pursuing even more opportunities along those lines, including onboard activations like live music, silent discos, private festivities, and even looking at inviting stakeholders, policymakers, and the media on board for lunch and learns to discuss WETA initiatives and plans for the future. So in addition to the onboard activations, there's also a lot of opportunities for collaborations and partnerships, such as the Brews with Views 2.0 with 3 new breweries, which is underway. A partnership with the National Park Service to help attract folks to Mare Island. They're going to be moving all the vessels from High Street Pier up there and opening it up in the public. So a great opportunity for a collab with them. And something that we're very excited about on the Mackenzie side, which is a Lego, San Francisco Bay Ferry Lego activation, which is planned to launch next year. So in terms of reaching and engaging with new audiences, as well as celebrating the diverse and unique communities that the ferry serves, we see opportunity in both producing and sponsoring a mix of community-focused events throughout the campaign. And this, of course, would include taking Ferry Fest on the road to other terminal locations and also sponsoring local community events and potentially tabling and have a presence there as well. So earned media, you know, we see there being ample opportunity to garner coverage through media outreach over the course of the 12 months by focusing efforts on specific milestones and announcements. Listed here are just a few examples of some notable and what we think are newsworthy initiatives that are in the queue. The sea change and Oyster Point pilot service launches, upcoming reef announcement, and then, you know, also leveraging the expanded Ferry Fests and brand activations to spark some interest from both the public and the media. So we'll be monitoring the opportunities as they come up. And then lastly, the last leg here of the framework, you know, Tom and his team have a very comprehensive MarCom program already in place. And so we're really just going to be tapping into that and leveraging it with a few key activities, including designing and launching a campaign-focused landing page, which is where we will drive all of the online traffic to, identifying and leveraging thought leadership opportunities, such as a published article authored by Seamus or other members of leadership. And then, of course, highlighting all of the exciting campaign activities and brand activations across all of the social channels, and even organizing some contests and giveaways to get folks engaged. Giving away free swag and tickets has proven to significantly increase engagement and following over the past year. So something we will continue to do here. So that, in short, is an overview of the strategy. In addition to sharing some of the tactics and thinking behind the framework, we also wanted to share a sneak peek of the campaign theme and visual identity development. Over the past month or so, we've been working with closely with Tom, Seamus, and team to develop a campaign theme that not only brings the San Francisco Bay Ferry brand to life and aligns with our messaging, but also hopefully spark some excitement amongst our target audiences, which of course includes potential riders, commuters, and recreational riders, which we know is a growing market and a segment that we really want to focus on. So in developing a theme, we wanted to first make sure that certain personality traits and qualities really came through. You know, ultimately, we want the campaign to feel and sound welcoming and inclusive, approachable, both spirited and cheerful. And visually, we want it to come across as creative and fun and forward-thinking and adventurous. And these really are all traits that we would attribute to San Francisco Bay Ferry's brand personality. We want to make sure we convey it through our messaging and our visuals. So after some back and forth and initial conversations with the WETA marketing team, we landed on our campaign theme, now departing from the ordinary. And this really gets at the idea that nothing about San Francisco Bay Ferry or the experience is ordinary. In fact, we would argue that it's an unordinary public transit experience in every way, shape, or form. From the beautiful scenic views that you get to witness on deck coming into the ferry building, the onboard refreshments and facilities. As a media rider, this one gets me, the fact that you're guaranteed a seat every ride, You know, regardless of where you're taking the ferry or why, it's special, it's extraordinary, it's an adventure. There's also some playful wordplay here with the now departing, which is similar to a departure announcement that you may hear on board. And we also use now to give it a sense of immediacy, like a ferry is waiting for you at the dock. Additionally, you know, this theme really lends itself to some alternate headlines, which we will also be producing for this campaign. You can start thinking about how we might play around with it in a radio script, or even develop some visual advertisements that really bring this theme to life. So in addition to developing a theme, we are also finalizing the visual identity of the campaign and have landed on a concept that celebrates this ordinary experience. And as you'll see on the next slide, some key features of the design include photo-treated images with illustrated scenes and elements, a vibrant and bold expanded color palette beyond sort of the primary blues and greens that you typically see. And all of this with the intent to convey a sense of whimsy, adventure, and fun, tying it back into that personality and tone. So this is a preview of the concept that we are finalizing and will be building out. You'll notice that we're featuring the campaign theme as a headline on the vertical ad on the left, and are featuring one of our several alternate headlines on the billboard, which reads "Your Everyday Getaway, San Francisco Bay Ferry, now departing from the ordinary." And that's a tagline that you'll see across all of the campaign executions to ensure there's sort of a cohesive feel and look throughout. And, you know, although we have just 2 mock-ups here, we hope you can sort of see the direction of where we're going. We're using some great breathtaking photography of onboard point of views, as well as some scenic vistas, and incorporating some illustrated elements that represent just how unique and fun these scenes and experiences really are. And then in terms of branded assets, you know, this campaign isn't just about reaching new audiences, it's also about engaging current riders. So we are going to determine opportunities to have branded touch points on board to engage with riders to get them excited. You know, our riders are also our most influential and loyal brand ambassadors, so we want to make sure that they are excited and integrated into this campaign as well. And these are just a few examples of what we could do, from branded coasters, some fun little buttons we could pass out, or even hats for the crew, who definitely play a big role in creating that unordinary experience, especially when you think about the safety they offer and the service that they provide. So with that, I'm going to hand things over back to Tom, who's going to walk us through the budget and timing.
Thanks, Sarah. So in the FY24 budget that you approved last spring, there was a bit of marketing. This is stable year over year. I haven't increased it the last couple of years. I do intend to spend it all this year, is what I've told Aaron and James. And doing it in an integrated campaign way really allows us to plan throughout the year, know when we're going to ramp up the paid media. It's not going to be at a volume of 10 year round, but it will ramp up. We do want to take this opportunity in the traditional down season of the ferry, being the winter. The weather smiles upon us. We will be bumping up the numbers a little bit on the spend to try to get more people onto the ferry. We know that when it's nice out and it's dry, people will ride the ferry even in December and January. So we want to take advantage when we can. See here the breakdown on the paid media, really investing a lot in digital. That's where the cost effectiveness is and has been for about a decade now. But we will be making some serious commitments to out of home and radio as well. Radio in particular, radio and digital are the best ways to reach non-English speaking audiences or bilingual audiences. And so that tends to cost a little bit more to do that, but we want to make sure that we reach those folks as well. In terms of the campaign calendar, you know, we're in full swing and getting the theme and the implementation together. We'll be working over the next quarter to finalize that and officially launch this quarter. And then it's really ramping up from there, going into first quarter of 2024. We'll be doing 2 brand activations. We're anticipating doing Cruise with Views, hopefully in February. We'll have more news on that soon. And then the Lego activation that I know perks up a lot of ears, anyone who has children that are under the age of 30, the Lego craze. So we'll have more information on that soon as well, and hope to do that in the first quarter. We'll continue to build momentum. We plan to have an Oakland Ferry Fest in the second quarter of 2024. We're trying to time it to the launch of that Oakland Estuary Shuttle. I think we want to do it a little bit before that to really take advantage. So we'll find a way to highlight that as well. And then finish strong through the third quarter of 2024 before we launch our next one. Come back to you again this time next year. With that, this is just an informational item, but we'd be happy to take any feedback or questions that you have.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you. I think that's very creative, and you know, I'm not an expert. I should have gone into marketing, but I have no skill. So you obviously do, and we're fortunate to have that. So I think it's a good, you know, it's a good feeling campaign. Makes sense to me. Look, you know, has a nice look, and you know, it's maybe a bit consistent with the "It All Starts Here" campaign that, you know, San Francisco is trying to pull off. So, but you know, I think the attributes that you listed as wanting to achieve, you know, I think got achieved. So, you know, congratulations. So, you know, I thought it was good. You know, from all of that standpoint, and you know, it's not a huge emotional budget. You know, I think it's probably fairly modest, and you know, maybe next year we should look at a push at some point and do something. But you know, I'm not supposed to suggest things like that. But it is, you know, when you roll out a new campaign and a new look and so forth, you know, there is something to be said for investing in it and really kind of getting, you know, get enough looks and feel to it in the public so that they internalize the, you know, that effort. I was going to ask a question. You know, this is a really dumb question. But have we ever done a race? Are we allowed to race these boats?
That's a new one.
If we were allowed to race them and we didn't, you know, no matter what happened, you know, we would get like a lot of free media. I mean, this would be a thing, right? You know, like,
It's a better idea than the ski contest.
no, you think? Anyway, I'll drop it. I removed the question. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
I'm also not an expert, so but I have a couple questions and just comments. But first off, I think what we've done with relations, you know, I've told you this is unbelievable. So it's been great. I don't know how you're going to talk yourself, but you got to keep going. So it's been really good. I'm happy to see it. One of the things that came up during your presentation was we're going to do it in English and Spanish, but we have a huge API community in the Bay Area. Is that because of money? Why would we not include?
I think that's something
or something like that, like, you know, especially with the areas we're targeting. That was one.
That's a great point, and that's something where through our community outreach program, really led by Next Steps Marketing, who we talked about in the past. We've done a lot of the API and specifically Chinese language outreach through them, and that's going into the communities, going to events where people are coming. Heart of the City Farmers Market is one where we're at with some frequency. Chinatown Festival in Oakland, we were at. Definitely last year. I think we were this year as well. That's definitely something we'll look at in terms of marketing. It tends to be a little bit harder on the marketing side. Spanish is a lot more expensive than English, for example. Get to Chinese, Tagalog, those go up even more. So to fit it into what Chair Wonderman called our modest budget, I'll definitely accept that. Will be difficult, but we'll definitely take a look. I think at some targeted television, Chinese television could be a good opportunity, and then really leaning on that on the community outreach side. But we'll definitely.
I guess that's my second follow-up question. I got to bring one after this, but we were talking about going into areas that we have not, and I know that we talked about as a board over and over again. Some of these lower economic areas that we service where people have not actually been on a boat. What is the plan? Like, is it just billboards, or is there something else besides our community events, or what other things are you doing to get into those communities to target to get people on the ferry and get the ferry message out to them?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we've been dealing with this really since 2021, since summer of 2021, when you approved the pandemic recovery program. We needed to disabuse folks in communities where the ferry was seen as a luxury for a lot of people before the pandemic. And frankly, it was higher priced than other transportation options. It's not anymore. And so that's an ongoing mission of ours to disabuse folks of that notion, to educate them that actually it's definitely cheaper than driving. It's probably cheaper than any of the other transit routes that you're taking. And even if you're not going to the city to work or for a specific event, you just want to get out of the house, it's actually a pretty affordable family outing just to get on the water. And so that's ongoing work. All of these tools build into that. So you really have to touch people multiple times with our message. And part of the message is that it's affordable. What we have seen in our survey results that we presented to you last year is that cost is not really a driving factor for most of our riders, but we did see on the weekends a big shift in the demographics away from the higher income families primarily using the ferry to more middle income and lower income families using the ferry. So we want to lean into that. A lot of that is influencer campaigns. We want to speak to people authentically. We did a great job with this in the Latino influencer campaign this past summer, where the main message that was getting across was, I can't believe this is only $5. And people authentically sharing that message with their followers, their community members, is sort of easy money in terms of the way to get that message out. In addition, going back to the community outreach, it's really getting out and getting feedback from people. Why don't you ride the ferry? Do not ride it because it doesn't go where you need to go. It's too expensive. The times don't work. It doesn't work logistically for you. Can't find parking, that sort of thing. Continuing to get that feedback, incorporated it into our internal service decisions and our marketing decisions. If there are things that are misconceptions out there, that's what marketing and community outreach is really there to try to disabuse people on.
Right. And then my final thing, and don't take this, because I know you are very smart people, and I don't do this for a living, but the two images I saw for people that look like me, we'd be using images that are targeting and, look like the diversity of the figure. I just hope
absolutely
that's part of this too.
Part of the struggle with putting together the mock-ups was that we were using pre-existing imagery that we have that will not be in the final campaign. So actually, Alexis Matsui from our team is a skilled, in addition to all of our other skills, skilled photographer and videographer. So we're going to be working with her, potentially some outside agencies to provide people that reflect the diversity of the Bay Area. In the past, it's really been a contract photographer, go on the ferries and see what you get, and get the people who are on the ferries. But that has changed too. So if we did that now, I think it would look a lot different. So we will be doing some of that live on the boat shots or shoots, in addition to bringing in outside professional help to reflect the diversity of our ridership.
That's on top of the mind for sure, as we think through those assets.
That's actually a good point. It was better than the first two.
Thank you. Thank you. I usually take a beat after.
Yeah, you're just warming up. There you go. Director Dune?
Yeah, I'm excited
Director
about
Moyer.
it. For me.
Okay, thank you. Melanie, is there anyone signed up to speak to issue item 10? This is item 10. Item 10? Wow, item 10. Anyone here or in the virtual world like to comment or question on item 10? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Item number 11, proposed vessel naming principles.
Right, me again. So the staff memo has a lot of info on the historical way we named vessels that WETA has built and operated. The real takeaway there is that there was not really much of a process. There's definitely no board set policy on how vessels are named. It was really done at a staff level in the past, going all the way back to the first vessels that WETA built, the Gemini class, Gemini, Scorpio, Taurus, and Pisces, which are all, of course, astrological signs. We pivoted away from that, but stayed with constellations until now. We're running out of constellations, especially maritime focused ones. It's a finite resource and our system is growing. And so we put together a set of principles that we're hoping to get your feedback on so that we can come back hopefully next month with a policy that the board would adopt for how we name vessels going forward. As I mentioned in the staff memo, there are 7 currently planned vessels. The last 2 vessels of the Dorado class, 3 small battery electric vessels to operate on the San Francisco waterfront, and 2 larger battery electric vessels to replace existing diesel vessels. Those are all going to need to get named pretty soon. And so we want to develop a policy that will guide our process to get those. What we've seen have success outside of the Bay Area is really driving public participation in this. You get some pretty wild ideas on vessel names, but you also get some really lovely participation and public recognition of the ferry system. So we think it's a great opportunity to plug in, especially with children, the future ferry riders of our system, to get them invested, work with school groups, potentially with the Exploratorium or other education focused organizations, potentially to get some activation around it and get some really good ideas. The principles, are essentially that we would explore the process involving school-age children and communities served by San Francisco Bay Ferry. We don't want vessel names to be political, religious, or obscene in nature. We don't want divisiveness, basically, in the naming process. One of the principles is that vessel names won't refer to individual people, businesses, and organizations. I think we're seeing on a daily basis now, other organizations come out and say they're going to rename the American Ornithological Association yesterday announced it was going to rename every bird that's named after an individual. And so we don't want to get down that path necessarily. Vessel names should be non-divisive, inoffensive in nature, and really reflect either the regional history, marine science, or other areas of interest to the Bay. So instead of having some of the names we've seen, in particular in NYC Ferry, they have some very creative names developed by second graders like Sparkly Unicorn and things like that. We would love to have something a little more reflective of the area we serve, or something related to marine science or the Bay. And then as we've written here, if we purchase or lease a vessel, it's actually maritime tradition to keep the name of a vessel. Obviously, if we purchase or lease a vessel that has a name that otherwise doesn't meet our policy, we would seek to rename it. We would press our luck with the sea gods, but otherwise we would keep it. And then as written here, the executive director would have final approval on vessel names after that public process. My goal here really is, as we bring these new vessels online, we want to get people excited about them, as we've gotten them excited over the past couple of years about our existing vessels, with our fleet cards and with other things that we've done to really highlight the personality of our different vessels. The fact that we have folks who really seek out Dorado because they know that it has that great selfie deck, it's really fast. And other folks that swear by the Hydros class boats and get a little upset when it's not one of those there because they know how well that one is. We want to build on that in a positive way. And I think this is a great step in that direction. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or take your feedback on.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. I figured this would come up someday. Here we are. So I think the process you've laid out is good, to bring in the creativity of the community. And I've heard criticism of the way we've done it, although I don't know whether that's fair or not, because it was thoughtful, and something to say for that, for sure. The thing, and I say that, I feel very endeared to our executive director, but I do kind of think this is, he's got real work to do, and we don't. So I kind of think this is the work that the final decision really should be the board's on this one. So, the recommendation should be, and process should be brought forth, and the board should really make the final decision. I think it could provide an opportunity for board members to kind of get out with these school kids and, activate a little bit, because sometimes it's not that easy for us to do that. And this, to me, is real opportunity to kind of go out into the community and, I think it's going to attract a lot of excitement and attention. And so I personally would be interested in doing that. I suspect others might. So that would be my thought, friendly amendment to when it comes back. Unless, without any You
I
know,
just want to.
and if you want to be part of the team, Seamus, you can be part of it, but you can even vote.
Yeah. Maybe a recommendation.
Others, thoughts?
No, I think it's a good idea too, the PR route. And I agree with Jim, having the board have a final say. And I told Seamus this story earlier that in Alameda, Henry Haight School, they gave to a bunch of third graders to rename, and the kids came back and named it Love. And so I don't, it caused a lot of problems. And you can tell a bunch of third graders, no, we're not going to accept your name. So there's a school named Love in Alameda now, which I don't want to, and there's nothing wrong with it. I just don't really want it. There was a lot of people that weren't really happy about having their kids' elementary school named Love. I just want to make sure that we have a say in the process.
And hey,
It's filtered at some point.
Yeah, no, I think
What do
it's
you think?
great. I think it's great. It's exciting and I think it's a great opportunity to engage our young people and get them inspired and excited about maritime industry and ferry transit and transportation in general. So I love it.
You know,
Great. Okay, appreciate it very much. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks for thinking it through. Item 12 is for anything not on the agenda that the public would like to comment on. Is there anyone signed up to, or was there anyone on item 11 on the naming that who wanted to speak? Got to ask, I apologize. No one on 11? How about 12? No one, you're right, they've burned down.
Tired them out.
Good tiring them out. All right, with that, thanks, everybody. Good day, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you.
Thanks.
Meeting's adjourned.
yes, sir.
So I wish you safe travels.
Yeah.
Are you?